Welcome to Stratfor's Essential Geopolitics podcast. I'm Fred Burton. Today I'm talking to Adriano Bosoni, who's our Senior European Analyst. Adriano, how's it like on the ground there in Spain?
Hi, Fred. It's good talking with you again. Here in Spain, things are difficult. We are in the third week of quarantine. So far, the lockdown measures are holding. People are, for the most part, respecting them. But we are in the middle of the process. We still have, at the very least, 3 more weeks to go. Hospitals in several regions of Spain have reached their full capacity. They can't take additional people. So the government is trying to move patients to other regions or asking them to stay home. The Spanish government has also opened some makeshift hospitals in large public spaces. So the immediate concern is connected to the health situation. But of course, from a longer perspective, people are worried about the impact that the coronavirus will have on the economy. Lots of people have been suspended from their jobs. Lots of companies have been forced to close and shut down their operations. And many in Spain and in other parts of Europe, I would say also in Italy, Greece, Portugal, France, many people are worried that they will not get their jobs back when the quarantine measures are lifted.
Have you been able to get out and go to the store, and how are the supplies?
For the most part, things are quite organized. When you go to the supermarket, they only allow a limited number of people in. Everyone is wearing masks and gloves. If you don't have, they give you gloves and masks. You do see a few shortages of some specific products like pasta or rice, those things that have a long shelf life and people try to buy just in case. You also see shortages of hand soap and things like that. But for the most part, at least in my experience, supermarkets have almost the same products that they did before the crisis.
What do you see as the long-term impact of the coronavirus in Spain?
Well, in Spain, and I would say in Mediterranean Europe as a whole, and to a lesser extent in Northern Europe, the main thing to watch after the peak of contagion has passed is the economy. Lots of companies will not survive the crisis. Lots of workers who have been suspended will not get their jobs back. Some sectors of the economy like tourism or restaurants, but even factories and other companies in the industrial sector will take a hit because of the stop in production and in activity, the fall in consumption, the fall in investment. So over the long run, after the peak of the contagion has passed, I would say that the economy is the main thing to watch. We have seen reports that in places like Ireland or Spain, between 10 and 15 of the workforce has been suspended, which is a big number.
Yeah, wow. Do you think we'll see a return to North-South frictions within Europe because of this?
We are already seeing that the European Union is struggling to come up with a coherent, coordinated reaction to the crisis. The South is demanding things such as the mutualization of debt, that is, debt issued by the EU as a whole. But Northern Europe does not want that. They argue that financial risk has to be reduced before it can be shared, that national governments have to try to do as much as they can on their own before there is a European reaction. So yes, this pattern, we have already seen a version of this during the Greek crisis some 10 years ago, and now we're seeing a repetition of that. But of course, Southern Europe argues that this time around the situation is different. This is not a crisis that was caused by irresponsible fiscal policies in the South. This is an external factor, an external shock that has nothing to do with the policies of national governments. So the EU should react as a whole. But we have not seen any indications that is happening anytime soon.
Over the next few days, what are you specifically watching as it pertains to the virus?
Everyone in Italy, Spain, and other parts of the continent is looking at the famous curve of contagion. They are all staring at that curve on newspapers and TV stations all the time to see if it will actually flatten and the number of contagions will start to drop, because the faster that the contagion drops, the faster these governments will lift at least some of the quarantine measures that are doing so much damage to the economy. But of course, we already have the Spanish government saying that the quarantine will remain in place at the very least until mid-April. We have stories in the Italian media suggesting that the government is thinking about keeping the quarantine until early May. So it's too early to tell when the measures will be lifted, and that's why everyone is pretty much obsessed with the contagion curve.
Well, Adriano, thanks so much for the update from the field there in Spain.
Thank you. It's nice talking with you as usual.
There's no better time than now to stay in touch with a trusted source like Stratfor. You can do that right now at a special rate for podcast listeners at stratfor.com/podcast offer. That's stratfor.com/podcast offer. I'm Fred Burton, and thanks for listening.